this works.
We're trying something new tonight.
Yes.
So we're live from Old Town Quilt Shop. I'm Michelle and this is Stacy. So
It's not popping up that we're live.
uh-oh.
So we're hoping that we're actually on camera and that you can see us. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna kind of go through, we got a few new things. So we'll show you those, and then we're gonna do like a town hall style.
Just an informational,
Yes.
and we'll, we would love to get feedback from you if you have questions, whatever. We're ready for them.
We're hoping that we're ready for them.
Yes.
Because we're hoping that we're going to be able to go live that we're going to be able to see that we're live.
Yeah.
It's not giving me my page, so hold
Hopefully we're not having technical difficulties.
on. We're sort of having technical
Because we are
difficulties.
trying something new.
Okay, well, I guess let's get started with what has come in that's new,
Okay.
and then we'll see if we can figure it out from there.
All right. Okay, so we got new books in. So the first one is called Charm School, and it is, there's 18 quilts in here, and they all use 5-inch squares. So there's a wide variety of things. It tells whether it's, I think it tells whether they're beginner friendly or whatever. But anyway, there was, of course, I had gone down the Pinterest hole and seen a quilt I really liked, and it turned out it was in this book, which we've had before, but apparently I didn't notice it before. So anyway, this book has come in, and it is $25.95, but as you know, books are always 30% off. If you come in the store, we automatically give you the 30%. If you're online, you need to type in book 30, BOOK 30. Okay, so then next we have something that we saw recently from a rep called More Weekend Sewing. So this is a lot of little projects that you can do with your scraps, or some of it probably takes yardage, but just fun things to make for as gifts, or there's pot holders and bookmarkers and little lanyard things. Anyway, small projects that are fun to do and use up a lot of those scraps. Okay.
All right, we're on live time
Oh,
now, so
good.
that'll be fun. All right, so a pattern we have is called riveting. Actually, you should be talking about this one because
I was riveted by it, apparently.
Apparently. So it's it says that it uses the Creative Grid Circle Savvy ruler to make the half circles that are in here. There's also a template. We don't have the ruler because we didn't realize that it used the ruler, but we'll get those in. But there is a template in here if you want to make it with the circles. And so this is fat quarter friendly, or you can use 3 different fabrics. So if you do the throw size, it really is a 3-yard quilt because you only need 1 yard of each. But it does have 4 different sizes in it, from queen all the way down to a crib size. So there's that. And then there is the Project Bags 2.0.
The ever popular project bag.
So this one's kind of a new and improved. I think they changed how the handle is put on. Also the way the zipper goes in. There's no open seams in there, although the way you did it, there weren't any anyways.
Right.
Or exposed seams. No open seams.
I never could figure out how she put them in, so I did my own thing. So anyway.
So Project Bags 2.0. So when you go to our site, if you just type in Project Bags, you'll see the original one, and then you'll see the 2.0 one. And there's nothing wrong with either one. This is just the slightly more updated one. And I think they've added the video tutorial. So there's a coupon in here so you can access the video tutorial, which really is kind of cool on the Biani site. They have a lot of videos for their products. Some of them you have to pay for, some of them you get a little coupon in the pattern, but it really kind of helps you, since we can't have classes right now, helps you figure out how to put these things together.
Yeah.
So, okay, so that's it for product. And then as far as what we're working on, of course, Journey to Nebula to learn how to use the rulers, the Hex and More, and the Super Sidekick and the Sidekick. So I am currently working on Rock Candy, which is next week's. She'll start working on this one next week. So this is what I have for that. So I use some bright batiks with a black background, and we do actually have, so this takes a charm pack, and we do have the charm pack for that available. I think it's called Rainbow Sherbet. So that's what I'm working on. I'm hoping to have this quilted maybe by the weekend. We'll see, but otherwise it'll be in the store before next week, Wednesday. So, and you?
Okay, and I'm working on Cookie Cutter, which is actually a quilt. But right now, this is just one block. However, I have all the blocks done, and now you put it together with triangles. But anyway, this is the companion. This is not the Journey to Nebula has all these smaller patterns like rock candy that are the actual Journey to Nebula patterns, and then if you like that technique, they have there are other patterns that use that same technique. So this is the companion to that one. So it's called Cookie Cutter, and it's a quilt, so it makes several different sizes. I'm just doing the baby one. So there's a baby and a throw and a twin or something, I don't remember. But anyway, again, that's you don't have to be part of Nebula, but these are just Jaybird quilt patterns that use the same rulers.
Okay, answering some questions. So Cheryl, yes, it is nice to see both of us on camera. That's a rarity. We actually don't have a moderator for this, so we are through the magic of technology and some props. We do have a little tripod for the phone, so it's sitting on top of that, on top of a crate, and it's fun and exciting.
So I hope this is working out.
Hopefully you can see us. We have a second phone where we are watching it, but it's a lag time, so it's like 10 seconds behind, so it's kind of funny. But we're trying to watch the comments, that's the point. So we got to Cheryl's. So Bonnie lists the book titles again. So the first one is More Weekend Sewing. And again, all of these are on the website. They should be under all the new stuff as well. So that's the first one, More Weekend Sewing, and that's at byannie.com. And then Charm School is the other one. And again, it should be in all the new stuff. If not, then it's in books. So Charm School and More Weekend Sewing. Okay, what else? No Y seams. We don't do Y seams, Carol. And that's actually the beauty of the Jaybird patterns, is that you can get kind of these more complicated looking things with nothing like Y seams and just weird things. So most of them, like this one, it's a half hexy and a half hexy. You're putting kind of triangle things together.
Yeah.
Like this is a triangle.
Right. You're cutting diamonds and then, attaching to those, and then you're sewing it. Oh, it's not difficult. It's not difficult putting these together.
Oh, and the Cookie Cutter is made with Michael Miller fabrics.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's it for actual product and new things.
Okay.
So now we can move on to our
our town hall.
Our town hall. Well, we're just so sick of politics. I thought, let's do our own little debate. Let's shake things up a little bit, do something fun.
We're not going to really debate. And,
no, not really.
Neither one of us will be a bully.
No.
Okay.
Do you need the sidekick ruler? For rock candy, yes, you need the sidekick, either the sidekick or the super sidekick for rock candy. And
although all the patterns have templates in them, so
correct.
If you don't want to invest in a ruler, you can do them with templates. It's just going to take a little longer, probably.
Yes. Yeah, on all of them.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that took.
That
Probably
one,
the sidekick.
The sidekick.
The sidekick.
I think it calls for the super sidekick because the pieces that you attach on here are 6.5 inches, so you have to have the bigger one. But for the small part, I used the regular sidekick. Okay. All right.
Now, so moving on.
We were going to talk about batting types, because for one thing, we got in finally our batting, our cotton batting So all of our back ordered batting came in, and I had done 2 orders because it was so back ordered. I figured, well, by the time we get our first order, we'll need the second one. Well, they all came in at once, so we have a lot. So right now we do have cotton batting.
Mm-hmm.
So we thought we would talk about, because people come in and ask, what do you use? You know, what's your favorite batting? And of course, you know, all of these things are project dependent, also dependent on, you know, the look that you want, how much loft you want, how much, you know, effort you want to have to put into the care of it, you know, whatever. So it, you know, there's a lot of different things, but we always have these to for you to feel, because all of our batting is in packages. So this way you can feel what, you know, what it feels like, how lofty it is. So for myself, if it's going to be a quilt that I'm going to be using, you know, on a bed or whatever, I love wool. I love the wool. I love the loftiness of it. I love how it, you know, how it quilts. I love the lightness of it. It's still warm, but it's not, it doesn't create a heavy quilt on me. No, my husband now, he likes heavier quilts. So, you know, he likes what I call a dead body laying on him. He likes really heavy ones.
Likes the weighted ones.
Yes. So, but, you know, that's something to factor into it. Now, when I do kids' quilts, I use cotton. I just, you know, prefer the cotton to anything synthetic. And then there's also, you know, the Dream Orient, which is bamboo. It's a blend of bamboo, silk, and cotton. And that one quilts up very nicely too, and it's, you know, in weight, I think it's comparable to the lighter cotton.
Yeah.
So
maybe a little thicker.
yeah, and one of the other things that we've brought in is Dream Puff, and one of the reasons that we brought it in was some of our long arm quilters were telling us that they were using this for some of their customers instead of wool because it's cheaper. So, you know, some of their customers didn't want to have to pay for the wool, but they wanted that same loftiness. I think it's a little heavier. It makes the quilt a little heavier, but you do still get that same, you know, that same loft like you do. In fact, it may even be more definitive in the Dream Puff than the wool.
Is it heavier, hotter than wool because it's a synthetic?
Probably. You know, I'm guessing that, but I don't know.
Light as a feather, yet warmer than down. That's what they're saying on the.
That's what they're billing it as. And then of course we have the blends, the 80-20 and the 70-30, and I have used those, and they work out well. You know, I like them.
They're okay. I prefer, like she does, the wool, the bamboo, or the cotton. I just prefer the natural fibers as opposed to the polyester. But again, it depends on what the quilt is going to be used for. I've not had a lot of experience with the blends. I think I've used the 70-30. I don't think I've used the 80-20 yet. I'm not sure, but they quilt up very nicely.
Yeah.
You know, especially the quilter's dream.
Yeah.
You know,
every one of them quilt up very nicely.
yeah.
Now, the one that we have not tried yet is they have a fusible, which, you know, years ago I used a fusible and it was awful. But I think that they have, and it wasn't Quilter's Dream, it was somebody else. But I think that they have improved the whole way that they do the fusible. So we'll probably bring some in and give it a try.
Maybe in a while.
You know, yeah.
We have to sell through our batting. So
Right.
all of you who have been quilting your UFOs or sewing your UFOs and need to get them quilted, we have lots of batting in stock for you.
Okay, so, you know, that's kind of, so if you come in, I mean, again, we're going to say it's dependent on the project, and you know, how much do you want to spend on it? How much do you know, how much care do you have? And actually, all of these are washable, so
Yes.
you know, it's really not even.
It's not the care. It maybe is the final look that you want.
Right.
You know, the cotton gets that nice, crinkly heirloom quilt type look to it once you wash it, whereas the wool and some of the other blends maybe don't get quite that crinkly look to them. And of course there are different weights of the cotton too, you know, which will
Yes.
affect how crinkly it gets.
Right.
You know, we carry the Request, which is the thinnest, but we have also had the Deluxe and the Select before, which
Yeah.
are a thicker,
And I
you know,
think,
thicker cotton.
and I think we do have some of the deluxe. Maybe
I
we
think
sold
it
out
all, 'cause it
when
was
we
the
did
only
when we
cotton
didn't
left.
have any cotton. We sold it all. But anyway, that's kind of our our take on the batting. I just don't think you can go wrong with any of the Quilter's Dream batting. So,
Yeah.
but we always have these here for you to feel what what it feels like,
Yep.
so that you can make a decision based on that.
And we have black. We do have some black.
Yes.
So if you have quilts with black background, then we do have black for that. Although I'm not using black for this.
Yeah, I've never used black, but yeah,
Yeah.
probably
sure
if
it
you
works
were
just as well.
if you were doing a show quilt, and it was black background, you probably would definitely want to use black because you don't want any white poking through.
Right.
But for our samples and whatever, we're fine with how it comes
But
out.
I haven't really heard of Quilter's Dream bearding
No.
much.
No.
When the batting comes up through your quilting stitches, that's called bearding. Not this kind of bearding. So for those of you who don't know, so if you were doing a show, something that you were going to put into a show or enter a competition with, and you had a black background, you probably would want to use a black batting. So in case there was batting coming up through those stitches, it would be black as opposed to white, and then you wouldn't be able to see it. But as far as I know, Quilter's Dream doesn't really have an issue with
No, I've never had an issue with that.
that. So
But maybe some of our long armors can chime in and say if they they've probably quilted way more than I have. Okay.
all right.
So that's our little batting talk.
Yes. Now,
Okay.
pre-wash or not pre-wash?
That's your fabric. So your fabric.
Yes. So, and again, it kind of depends on how you grew up with sewing. I didn't grow up sewing, so I was never taught, you wash everything before you use it. Clothes, obviously, that you buy from the store, you wash. But as far as the fabric that's going to be made into quilts, I'm not a pre-washer. I didn't grow up that way. I wasn't taught that way. Usually I'm just coming straight from the shop and I'm cutting it here even. So I'm not a pre-washer. Have I had a problem with bleeding? Not to my knowledge. I don't know that I've washed very many of my quilts. If I were using a batik that was a dark red or a dark blue or a black, some kind of really dark color that's, it's got a heavy color saturation to it, I probably would pre-wash that. But once you pre-wash one thing, you have to wash everything. So with the quilting, it's wash all or wash none, and I'm a wash none. I have done it once or twice, but I really like that crisp feel of fabric. So I don't pre-wash, but I do starch. Not starch, but I use Best Press, so it's the starch alternative. And whether you wash or not, you can still use the Best Press. It helps get the wrinkles out, the creases or the wrinkles, whichever it is. And of course we have the unscented, which I like. And then there's also scented ones. This one happens to be Lavender Fields, but we have a couple of other scents to them. So it's just kind of a light scent. But if you're making something that maybe is going to go to someone who is scent sensitive, you might want to either use the scent free or wash your quilt before gifting it.
And another alternative when you are using starch or Best Press or whatever are these little mister bottles. They just spray out a finer mist, and it just works out well. So even if you use water, you can mist with the cute little misters, and they are and they are fun. Yes, and you hold it down and it just keeps going. They're just fun.
Yes.
When it was hot, we just
You probably know this. What about pre-wash on flannel? I heard they bleed more. I don't know about that. I don't have a lot. I've done one flannel but I've not really used a lot
Yeah,
of flannel.
I don't know. I mean, again, it may depend on where that flannel came from. That it may, I think the quilt, some of the ones, the Quilter's Quality one, I would think, what I would be more concerned with the flannel is the shrinkage, rather than the running. Um, as far as, the washing, not washing just regular fabric, I started out washing everything because when I learned how to quilt, that was what, they said. So then I took everything home and washed it. And then I also would even dampen my batting and put that, in the dryer to pre-shrink it, because then the the fabric was already shrunk, so I didn't want that crinkly. Anyway, that got to be old real fast. Because then I would have things on the shelf that, maybe if I didn't come right home and wash it, then I couldn't remember what was washed and what wasn't washed. So it just became kind of a nightmare. Plus, if you're using pre-cuts, you're not going to put those in the washer. So then you're combining your pre-cuts with pre-washed fabric. I just don't pre-wash. But again, like Stacy said, if there was anything, I did have one thing run, but it was something that I had hand dyed. So
that's a little different.
That's why it ran.
And there are products to help that. There's
Right.
Retain and Synthropol that can help.
Yeah. So if you know or you suspect that you may have a problem with it, then you can use, either Retain or Synthropol. And then of course there's always those
The
color
color
grabbers
catchers.
or whatever they're called. Yes. And you can put those in the wash with any of your finished quilts to be sure that nothing runs.
Yes.
But I don't pre-wash either anymore. So that's kind of where we're at with the wash or not wash.
All right.
I know that our employee Dolores, now she washes everything. She's a washer.
And she just said, I just washed some batiks and glad I put color catchers in with them. I pre-washed
Yeah.
for both shrinkage and bleeding.
Right. So, batiks, I probably would, I haven't pre-washed them, but if I was using a really saturated color, I probably would. And if, when I wash it, I probably would put a color grabber in there, after the quilt was done. So, you just kind of have to use your common sense. And, again, I mean, if you really are fearful of anything bleeding, then pre-wash it.
But just remember, you have to pre-wash everything then.
Yeah.
All the fabric that's going to go into the quilt, including your back.
Yeah.
So everything that's in the top and everything on the back.
Right.
So.
Okay.
So there is no definitive answer on pre-wash or
Right.
not. It's again
Right.
to personal preference.
Yeah.
There are die-hard pre-washers and die-hard no washers. So
Right.
and everything in between.
Yes. So the quilt police have not shut us down for not washing anything yet. So I think we're good. All right. Okay. So we're going to move on to another topic.
Yep.
I think it's getting long. So let's just do the steam or no steam.
Okay. Well, that kind of leads back into the best press.
Right. Okay, so when you are piecing and you are pressing, first of all, something like this, you and what Stacy had, you have a lot of bias edges. So first of all, I would when I iron my fabric, before I start cutting anything, I would use best press. Because that way, it's going to give a little stability to that fabric. So then you're going to cut and do all that, and you're going to do your piecing. So then when you go, you have all this pressing that you need to do. And what you need to do is be sure that what you are doing is pressing, not ironing. So pressing is pressing, not back and forth, okay? And, and we do have the wool mats. The wool mats help also,
Yeah.
and help give you nice flat seams. But I wouldn't, at that point then, I wouldn't use water. Even though a lot of times I use water when I'm ironing the fabric before I cut it, I'll, spritz it with water and best press. But once I have cut the fabric and it's sewn and I'm doing the seams, I don't use the steam because, or water. I don't use steam at all, mainly because I'm too lazy to keep emptying out my my iron, and I don't want any clogs there. So I just don't steam, period. But I do spritz with water, but not after I have sewn it. And that's because it's going to distort the seams. You know, once you get that wet, you can distort, and especially on anything that's on a bias edge, you can get a lot of distortion. So you want to press, and press, lightly. I mean, none of that back and forth stuff. And I think on these, and I think we showed it last week or the week before, the little roller presser. I think on her videos, Julie Herman uses one of those little roller pressers. I like mine to be really pressed, so I use a regular iron. So I get up and I do press my seams, but I don't use any water on them at that point, or even any best press.
Oh, see, I do.
Yeah. So I just do it dry.
I don't use steam, but I do use the best press, and I do, once I've gotten to this point, I would spritz the whole thing with the best press and press to really flatten that, to really get those seams flat. Especially where you have a lot of joining, especially where you're matching a whole bunch of seams, because it can just get to be too much. Because then when you go to quilt it, it's going to be all, thick. Mm-hmm. So a difference between color grabbers and color catchers? No, they're the same thing. It's just what she's saying and what I'm saying.
I think there's two different brands out there or something, but they all do the same thing.
Yes, and it looks like a dryer sheet.
Right.
You find it in the same aisle as the dryer sheets.
Yeah.
I know Costco has them, and I'm pretty sure Walmart has them. I think Target does too.
Yeah.
Color catchers.
Yeah.
I think they're by Bounce. Okay.
Okay, so were there any other questions, or, and feel free to comment on whether you liked this format or not. I mean, the bottom line is we had no new fabric to show. We had to come up with something, and we just thought, well, let's do something. Let's do something different. Maybe you guys are getting bored with us just standing here, and well, we're still just standing here, but just standing here and telling you about the fabric. We'll just bombard you with our with our knowledge.
It's good to get that knowledge out there. We do still have a lot of new sewers out there, mask makers who are maybe looking to be sewists, and we still get a lot of new people in, beginners in. So it's always good to have that information out there. And I know we've got some watchers now from across the country from us being in the magazine, which is pretty cool.
Wow.
So yay. Which we're doing really well with, selling magazines and kits, so we're super excited about that. So
So anyway, there's no one right way other than pressing versus ironing once those seams are done. Don't ever iron them, press them.
Yes. Yeah, nothing that we talked about is, there's no right, there's no wrong. Like she said, the quilt police aren't going to come knocking on your door. It's just how we, individually do things, and you ask 10 people and you're going to get 10 different answers on everything. So, anyways, yes, I know, we do need to have a drink in our hands. Next time we'll do... Maybe we need to switch to Mondays and do Margarita Mondays or something. Wine Wednesdays.
Yes. With no whining.
I like having you both on the camera, samples higher. That's what I thought. Samples need to go higher.
Oh, okay.
And it blocks our faces. It's hard for us to see. I mean, I do have a second phone here, but it's got the lag on there.
Yeah. So we're not realizing. Okay, it was a new format. We're testing it out. So thank you for your feedback. It helps us.
So, favorite iron. Okay, so confession. My iron, I almost threw it away. So my iron actually came from my husband's grandmother, which he had been carrying it around. I don't know how he ended up with it, given to him from his mom or something, and we were on whatever, or 10th move, and I've moved it 10 times, and I'm so sick of it. I said, does this even work? He's like, I don't know. I said, can we throw it away? No. So then we move up here, and I get into quilting, and I'm thinking, oh, do we still have that iron? So my iron is this, I don't know how old, 50 years old, 7 years old. I don't know how old it is. This super heavy iron. It's still got that fabric wrapped cord on it, which is fraying and probably super dangerous. But it's really heavy and it gets really hot.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my favorite iron. I use nothing else. I've used the cheap ones, and I guess I overuse them. I don't know, because like the ones out here, they die, and I'm constantly buying a new one.
Yeah.
So that's the only iron I use ever.
Yeah.
Hot and heavy.
And I have one of those as well. It was an old one that was, and my mother-in-law's. It was still in the box, and it has the fabric wrapped cord. Has no, has no steam. So there's no.
Oh, mine had a bulb. I threw it away.
Yeah. So it has no holes for the steam. So, and it does get super hot, and it never shuts off. So unless you turn it off,
Right.
it stays on, which I like. But I do also, so I leave that here for when we have classes, or we get to sew here, which
It's been a
we
year
don't.
since you've used it.
I
then.
know, yeah. So it's not getting used. So I've been using just the cheap ones like we get for the classroom, and actually I like them because they're not horribly heavy if I have to keep picking them up and putting it down.
Yeah.
So I've never had one of those fancy schmancy, Alisos or, any. I did have a Rowenta once, and it didn't last. So I just went to I have that old one and the cheap one.
Do you keep them on the stove? No, Carol, they're not quite that old. This was after electricity was invented, because
Yes,
they do plug in.
Yes,
Fabric wrapped cord.
Right.
But I love it. I was actually so excited. It was like the one thing I was glad that we saved from however many moves we
Right.
made, that we toted it around. It was in this cardboard box
Yes.
that was falling apart, and we had a burlap carrier that it goes into. I don't even know if I still have it. It's awful. Like, really? Do we have to keep this thing? So glad we did.
And if you knew my husband, or if you know my husband, he's a hoarder, and his mother was a hoarder. So this, she probably, for all I know, she had 10 of these, irons, because, if she bought one, she bought several. But anyway, we had to clean out her house, and this was the only thing I was happy to have. And believe me, he brought home tons. I called him Jed Clampett. The truck looked like. Well, anyway, so we got a lot of junk, but we did get a good iron. So those old irons, which I think you can go on, online, probably
Etsy,
Amazon,
maybe.
which I hate.
Yeah.
But you can probably go online and find those old ones, and they get really hot, and they're heavy, and so they really flatten those seams.
And combine it with the wool mat, and you've got
Yeah,
some flat.
Yeah.
Press those puppies.
right.
And they get hot.
Yeah. Yes.
Melted many things.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. They do get very hot, and you have to remember to turn them off, because there's no automatic shut off.
Right. Yep. Okay. So it looks like we're pretty much done. Because one of us has to move in order to just turn it off. So
All
that's
right.
the
So I will bid you adieu.
I'll do my little song and dance here while she's doing that. So, anyways, we hope you guys enjoyed this. We do still have more topics to cover. It is, we're running a little bit late. Want to make sure you can get the real debate on later, and get dinner and whatnot. So we have a few more topics. So if you guys like this, we can, do a couple more the next time we have zero fabric to show you.
Yeah.
So, okay, Cheryl says, do you set your seams? I do, yes.
I do too.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
Yes, before I
Yes.
do anything, whether I press it open or I press it to the side, I set my seam. Yes, definitely.
So for those of you who don't know what setting your seam is you,
It's when you have this, so this is the border. So if I've just sewn the border on, I'm going to take it and, I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
and press that, and then I'm going to press the board, the seam open or to the side or whatever. So it just kind of, it gives them a little bit of flatness to start with, and then it also helps it to set it so that it will stay that way, stay to the side or open once you do actually press it. Okay.
Okay.
Alrighty.
All right. So Jeff says have a
sayonara.
glass of wine, and he loved the format.
Yes.
All right.
Tracy's doing well.
Yes.
Sayonara. Ciao. Adios.
All right.
Goodbye.